All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan. So look, what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to give you 20 free minutes of the Nootropics God course. I'm going to start it somewhere in the middle, and then I'm just going to let it run for 20 minutes. I want to give you guys an idea of how powerful this course is. I mean, so far the people that have gotten it and the reviews that I get via email on it are like, man, I am implementing the principles that you suggested and I'm already 150% above my previous nootropic baseline with results. I mean, people are like walking around Bradley Cooper with this stuff, limitless style, because the type of strategy that is infused into the stacks in here and the methodology is high level. All right. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to let you watch 20 straight minutes of the Nootropics God course. And I also wanted to tell you that it's on sale right now using the coupon code 50 at livecortex.com. It will take $109 off of it. Coupon code 50. I've said enough. On to the Nootropics God course. 50 milligrams 9-MeBC, 20 milligrams bromantane, 50 milligrams mucuna, 150 milligrams uridine, 85 milligrams CDP choline, 300 milligrams Alcar, 50 milligrams theanine, 90 milligrams artichoke extract, and then 300 milligrams Bacopa monnieri. We have all the elements and more for a powerful, long-lasting motivation stack in that stack. That's both balanced and extremely high level in terms of what it's doing. We're striking the dopamine chords, the acetylcholine chords, and the energy chords. Your procrastination at that point pretty much stands in zero chance against that stack. And then we have modafinil. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Dopamine release agent and orexin neuropeptide inhibitor. This chemical alone will create motivation to work and keep you highly focused and awake during the process. So using the principles laid out earlier in this course on stacking and adjusting and really the formulation and stacking process, we would situate some modafinil stacks thus. Number one, 100 milligrams modafinil, 40 milligrams bromantane, 100 milligrams mucuna, 500 milligrams NAC, and then 100 milligrams of L-theanine. What's important about this stack is that it isn't just tailored for motivation. It's tailored to resupply your brain with the necessary quantities of dopamine that the modafinil will ultimately be forcing the release of and ultimately depleting. Bromantane, NAC, and mucuna particularly, as it relates to that. The God level principle to take away from this is when forcing the release of a transmitter heavily, like dopamine, if you're not repleting it simultaneously, chances are you're going to run into some degree of tiredness or lack of motivation in the days post the stack. That always happens to folks. Synthesizing dopamine correctly and then having enough mucuna specifically in the stack to keep dopamine reserves from being depleted prevents modafinil come downs for the majority of people that execute that strategy. Modafinil come downs are actually a real thing. Like, I've dealt with people on a consulting basis where they come to me and, you know, our job is to situate 20 or 30 really highly tailored stacks for them. But at the same time, they're like, well, look, I've been taking modafinil and I really love it. But whenever I take it, in the days post taking it, I just don't feel like myself. I feel tired, I feel lethargic, my brain doesn't work well, I'm not motivated. That's because you took modafinil in a way that was depleting dopamine reserves, but you weren't getting it back. You weren't repleting the sort of reservoir, if you will. Another modafinil-centered stack that focuses on motivation. 150 milligrams modafinil, 50 milligrams phenylpiracetam, 100 milligrams mucuna, 600 milligrams NAC, and 60 milligrams CDP choline. Okay, so this stack will force you to release dopamine, rebuild dopamine at the same time, sensitize the dopamine response on the receptor side, and give you a bit of acetylcholine to work with. Here you have both the motivation element of the stack to work with some added focus, processing, and call it compartmentalization via the cholinergic side of things. Now, look, I mean, sometimes, in some cases, you just need pure energy stacks, right? Aside from motivation and verbal fluency, there might just be cases in which you just need to get into gear. You've got motivation, or like you want to do things, but you don't have the sheer energy dynamics to just start, right? That's where you bring in combinations of the following energy nootropic compounds, or well, the previous energy nootropic compounds that we talked about, alcar, dynamine, teocrine, to build intelligent stacks to kick up the energy and get things going. So we'd situate some energy stacks thus: 150 milligrams dynamine, 50 milligrams theobromine. That's it. That's one simple stack, okay? That alone should turn up energy and stimulation to a noticeable degree, assuming that all other things, like all other elements of brain function, are correct to get you going. So if you're motivated as it stands and you wake up and you're like, man, I got stuff to do and I'm motivated to do it just because it needs to be done, or whatever your motivation is, but you just don't have the energy, a stack like that will help you to get the energy to get going. Making that a bit more complex, which is my job, we'd situate a stack like this: 100 milligrams dynamine, 100 milligrams teocrine, 50 milligrams theobromine, 75 milligrams L-theanine. So here we tone up the stimulation, but again, bring in a balancer with L-theanine to ensure the stack doesn't become overpowered to the point where you lose focus. Another energy stack: 150 milligrams teocrine, 350 milligrams alcar, 30 milligrams theobromine, 100 milligrams of ALA, and then 100 milligrams of CoQ10. This is actually a really, really awesome stack. Here we add the energy and mitochondrial optimization of alcar and CoQ10 with a great baseline teocrine theobromine stack. ALA tends to aid in any energy nootropics stack's ability to last and be potent while it's working. That's a key critical kind of hack for you guys to take away. All right, so those are some highly effective energy nootropic stacks. Now look, I mean, you can switch between those chemicals, change the doses, but generally use those chemicals and those stacks as templates if you don't really want to go through the formulating stacks from scratch kind of thing, which, you know, I think you should use the muscle of doing. But ultimately, my job is to see if I can make your life as easy as possible. Using those type of stacks with those chemicals in it will give you an incredible baseline to start with in formulating, adjusting, and finalizing energy nootropic stacks. So let's move to working memory stacks, strictly working memory. Again, focusing on stacks for tasks that you execute. Working memory stacks are stacks intended to be used for strict working memory-esque stuff. Like, you know, work items that require you to hold simultaneous pieces of information in your brain at once. And frankly, the best way to do this is to combine a good bit of the working memory compounds that we discussed earlier in lower modest doses. We situate some working memory stacks thus. Number one, 200 milligrams aniracetam, 300 milligrams oxiracetam, 50 milligrams pramiracetam, and 70 milligrams of alpha-GPC. Another stack, another memory stack: 5 milligrams Noopept, 300 milligrams aniracetam, 50 milligrams alpha-GPC, and then 100 milligrams of oxiracetam. Okay, epically powerful working memory stack. And I'll give you one more. 2.5 milligrams PRL-853, and I'll get to how to weigh that out in a second. 5 milligrams Noopept, 400 milligrams oxiracetam, and then 50 milligrams of alpha-GPC. So look, sometimes you will run into a situation where the most optimal formulation or dose of PRL-853 is 2.5 milligrams, which is really, really hard to dose out. But if you can manage to dose out just 5 milligrams of it on a scale, which should be relatively easy to do if you've got a proper milligram scale, then you're really just taking that 5 milligrams and splitting it in half. however you do it. You take a credit card or a sharp knife or something, and you can even use a toothpick. Usually, nootropics toolkits come with tools you can use to sort of separate powder on a scale. You just be splitting it in half. Same thing with the Noopep. Like if you just need to dose 10 milligrams of it, and then split it in half to get 5 milligrams, do so, because it gets really difficult at that level. So you may have to just dose it the next step higher and then split it in half. So getting a little more complex with these stacks, you may need to tone them all up on the energy side to drive the stimulation to actually do the working memory-based tasks. Does that make sense? You could have a working memory task but not have the energy or motivation to like sit down and do the thing that you're going to require working memory in. In this case, you'd simply add a base of 100 milligrams of teacrine to each of the stacks. That's it. Alternatively, you could swap the 100 milligrams of teacrine with 100 milligrams of dynamine and pretty much achieve the same effect, right? So you have this working memory stack. It's good for working memory, but you're just needing a little more energy. Just add 100 milligrams of dynamine or 100 milligrams of teacrine to the stack. All right? So finishing this subsector, we're going to switch gears to trying to merely induce relaxation. You'd want to be situating stacks thus. Here's one stack. 50 milligrams fasiracetam, 100 milligrams L-theanine. That alone should set up the brain chemistry for you to relax, slow your brain down, and extricate from the business of your daily work brain, the automaton robot of your daily work brain. Alternatively, you could try something like this. 1 gram of ashwagandha and 50 milligrams of picamillan. This is actually a really awesome combination. This stack, though simple, is extremely powerful for shutting down stress and quieting your mind. Picamillan, being a chemical bonded version of niacin plus GABA for blood-brain barrier crossing purposes, is extremely potent at slowing down the excessive neurotransmitter function that may be going on, but upregulating, if you will, the quantity of GABA in the brain at the moment and for the next few hours. That's why that stack is very awesome. You could stack most of the known relaxation chemicals together, but again, you'd want to lower medium dose them. You would situate a stack thus. 20 milligrams fasiracetam, 20 milligrams picamillan, 40 milligrams theanine, 400 milligrams ashwagandha, 50 milligrams Tulsi holy basil, and 150 milligrams rhodiola. This stack ensures you'll get significant relaxation, but not a complete shutdown of your conscious brain. You don't want to be a vegetable. You want to be just relaxed. Another huge god level strategy that not a lot of people know about is using C-Lank, nasal spray C-Lank, as a relaxation agent. It actually positively modulates benzodiazepine sites at the GABA A receptor. My suggestion on this would be to get a nasal spray solution of C-Lank. Start with 1 spray and then work your way up to 3 if you absolutely have to on its own to achieve a relaxed state. My advice would be to just get regular C-Lank, not like acetylated versions or any optimized versions of C-Lank. This is sort of a case of using tried and true and not needing the super bioavailable stuff. Okay, now those were all examples of stacks for certain brain states and inducing those states on cue. The real practical application of this is in identifying which of those stacks is useful for your set of tasks and productivity throughout the week. As an example, if I needed to crank out a podcast, which I usually just pick out of the list of topics and free flow, like the topics that people email me or the topics that I've written down, meaning like I don't actually script anything when I go on live on the air on YouTube. And therefore I needed to be verbally fluent, I would select one of the stacks that we talked about that I've situated for verbal fluency, or create using the nootropic stacking methodology explained prior in this course, and the compounds that we spoke of earlier that are useful for verbal fluency. a good stack for that outcome of doing videos. And you should do that too. If your working memory is particularly failing because of a night out or bad sleep or whatever, and the work you're doing on a particular day, like call it Tuesday, requires that your memory be on point. Say, as an example, you're an IT professional and need to set up an entire network. You'd want to shoot for like the aniracetam, pramiracetam, PRL centered stacks that we laid out prior. Now here's where things get really, really advanced. Google Documents, okay? This is the platform that you should be using to lay out all of your stacks. All of the stuff that we talked about, and ultimately it's like, well, where are you gonna jot all this stuff down? The singular best way to do it is to open a Google document and create a 3 or 4 column table and insert your nootropics data into that table, so that once you figure out which stacks are effective through the formulation and then adjustment to finalization process, you can then assign those stacks to certain tasks. Okay, so here's an example. Study this table for a second and I'll break down what we have. We have a stack of, starting at least, of 60 milligrams armodafinil, 200 milligrams dynamine, and then 300 milligrams of Alcar HCl. All right. The adjustment on this stack, so this is working through the adjustment strategy, was we bumped the armodafinil up a little. We kept the dynamine the same. We took the Alcar HCl down a little bit. We added fasiracetam at 20 milligrams and we added some L-theanine. This was because in the results section of this table, so this is an actual client stack table, they were explaining that the stack was a little too overstimulating. There was nothing they could do about it. So we just situated it a little bit. That stack there, that adjustment, didn't end up being quite perfect, so we made a finalized adjustment, which ended up being perfect, thus the finalization mark on the top of it and the date of 60 milligrams armodafinil, 100 milligrams dynamine, 40 milligrams fasiracetam, and then 100 of theanine. And usually with clients, I like to run the stack again once it's finalized to make sure like it's finalized. And so we took it again, we got great results, completely finalized. But if you look at the top left of this table, for this particular person, they're doing finance work. They're doing cerebral brain work, finance work on Tuesdays. So we've situated this stack as working extremely well for that kind of work. Now I know above we talked about racetam being in the mix when you're doing finance work, but for this particular person, this stack just ended up being extremely useful for that. Okay, so what this demonstrates, and what I'm moving into telling you to do in the final explanation of assigning stacks for tasks, is after compiling your stacks on a Google document using tables, I'm telling you, this is the best strategy. Assign them to certain days of the week and know which days of the week you're going to be doing certain things. This is really the most high-level way to have stacks situated for the tasks that you execute. And then it's super easy because you just go reference it on the Google document. You go up there, it's Tuesday, you're going to be doing cerebral work and finance work for that day. Here's your stack for that. Like, enough said. Nothing else has to be thought about. In this particular stack, client had explained that the stack was extremely useful for sitting down and doing the company's books for the week. That's what he was doing. And whenever client executes this task, doing the books, which is once weekly, he takes this stack. Another great example is an IT professional that was a client of mine that owns a company managing IT networks for restaurants. Interesting job this person has. They do that 5 times a month. So 5 times a month, he sets up new networks, new IT networks for different restaurants. And we've nailed down a stack that is perfect for this sort of long form, deeply cerebral focused task. So I'll have you look at the following table. So we didn't even need to adjust this stack at all. It just ended up working perfectly for what they wanted to do. It's 60 milligrams bromotain, 150 milligrams dynamine, and 100 milligrams of theanine. If you look at the results section, the client actually says, helped a lot today when building a new network for client. I need to feel like this each time I do this 5 times a month. Enhanced processing speed, great focus, and flow. So this is a person that really didn't need a whole lot of optimization on the memory side because that part of their brain worked really, really well. The neurotransmitter underlying components there worked really well, and that's the cholinergic side. So we really just needed to amp up the stimulation and the motivation and then add a little bit of calmness to put them in a place where they can, do this sort of IT-oriented work. So we assigned this stack for that task, knowing that he does it 5 times a month. That is the importance of assigning stacks for tasks. And again, the best way to do this is to have a Google document and a table where you've laid out your stacks, you've laid out your adjustments. Then when you know what you need to do and what the stack is good for, you just make an assignment on the top left corner of the stack that says this is good for this. Focused, oriented IT work, specifically network building. All right, folks, thanks again for watching. That was sort of toward, I guess that was somewhere between halfway and 3/4 of the video course. So it's kind of right in the middle where we're really getting down to deep stuff. But prior to that, we talk about formulation strategies, adjusting strategies, right? Adjusting to finalization, and a lot of really key stack formulation and organization principles that literally is the difference between a sort of moderate user or even a novice level user of nootropics and the high expert level of using nootropics. I mean, to have all of the methodology and the strategy and the principles layered into one consistent explanation with examples is very powerful. That's why this course is very, very powerful and very, very high level. I hope you enjoyed the free 20 minutes. If you want to go get the Nootropics God course, do it at livecortex.com. As you see on the screen, the coupon code is 5050, and you can save $109 right now, taking it down pretty substantially. Definitely the cheapest it's ever been and will ever be. It goes back to its original price this coming Monday. All right, so you got to get on it ASAP. I'm going to give you a couple days to get the course, and then it's going all the way back to, I think its original price is $219 or something. So go get it now, coupon code 50. Thank you so much for being with me. Content to come this week. Talk to you then.